Welcome, brothers, to the True Gamer Podcast, a podcast on the internet, a podcast within the Imperium of Man, the greatest podcast. I am one of your brothers, Lieutenant Eddie, second company of the Ultramarines, along with my brother. Not really a brother. He's actually a server to Skull Sheps.
Wow. You get a little bit of niche knowledge and suddenly you start throwing shade.
I'm all around it. Server to Skull Sheps. SSS. Perfect right there. How you doing, bro? How you doing, brother?
I'm good. I've been enjoying Space Marine. I've been a 40k nerd for most of my life. So having a game that's like the full... There's been 40k games in the past, you know, but this one is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
So,
well, I've come in at the perfect time, it seems. I've done a bunch of like video watching and whatnot. I'm really like getting into the lore.
You know, stuff you have no business knowing.
I've started listening to audiobooks, and I've played this game. I just finished it last night, and I am fully committed to the Emperor, fully committed to slaying chaos wherever it is, any demonic forces, and upholding the Emperor's will.
In his name, brother.
It's been so amazing. How are you doing, though? You good?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm very good because I've got Space Marine.
Space Marines, that's what you need in life.
Yeah.
You don't need anything. That's why they remember we said I said this to you in private. There was a video that I watched on Instagram where a guy's like, I'm giving this game a 0 out of 10 because you play as this incel loser. And I'm like, technically, yeah,
he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. He's an incel. But I'm like, but that's not nice. Come on, man. He saves everyone. Anyway, bro.
Yes.
We are going to talk all about Space Marines. We're going to talk all about Astrobot as well, because I've been playing that. However, we're going to kick it right into...
Don't worry about it.
We're going to
kick it... The machine spirit's angry, brother.
The machine spirit's angry. Pray to it. Pray to it. We're going to kick it right into the first topic, which is the big news that popped up just a couple of days ago. The PlayStation 5 Pro exists. It's a real thing, and it has been revealed in full by Sony. The whole internet is ablaze about it for many different things. I have a lot of takes on this. We've both watched the Mark Sony presentation, which was very different to the previous presentations.
It was, yeah.
Tell me what your thoughts are on it. Should we get the ugly bit out of the way first of all?
Yeah, go for it.
Let's talk about it then. The cost of the console is $699.
Astronomical.
£699, 799 euros, and some billions of yen.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's a price tag.
There's another thing we have to get out of the way.
Go on.
Mark Cerny, in his own numbers, proved that I'm correct and you're wrong. 75% of players opt for performance, not fidelity. You're wrong. Take the L.
Listen.
That's another fat Sheps dub.
Listen,
thank you.
There are also people out there who like sparkling water, but we don't consider them people.
The fair point.
So you guys are people. No, he did say that in the presentation. In fact, that was the entire crux, the entire reasoning for the PS5 Pro existing.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that in a second.
Yeah.
Tell me about how you feel about the price. What's your feelings regarding it?
I knew the price was, I mean, we'd heard rumors and stuff like that, but actually hearing it from or seeing it on the presentation, that's the locked in price. I knew it was going to be high because Mark Cerny his tone for the whole thing was sort of like HR woman that hasn't been laid in 10 years, letting you know that you're being fired, but HR isn't having any layoffs. You know, that was the tone of it. And I'm like, they know.
You felt like it was coming.
They know, it felt weird versus the excitement of that deep dive when he talked about the 3D audio.
Yeah.
Right? Just wasn't there. So I knew it was going to be hey, we're going to, Mark, you're one of the few names people know. We're going to need you to present this.
We need you to put your reputation and stay in it. Go ahead, do it. Be the face.
Yeah. And then the tone of it was just so strange because you would have thought they'd be trying to sell you on it, i.e. look at all the stuff it can do. And really what they did was try to like justify the price as opposed to be like, look, you need this, right? It felt weird.
I don't even think they did properly justify it, but
They
save
didn't.
that for
They didn't. But if it had been me put in that position, I would have been like, look at The Last of Us 2. Great looking game, runs at 30 FPS. Look at it like this. How could you ever play? You know, like you'd be like, you have to.
Yeah.
Also, ironically, as a person that immediately drops fidelity and goes for performance, I was thinking, can I drop fidelity on this and instead of get 60 FPS with fidelity, can I get like 120?
There's something I want to bring up about this.
Yeah.
I've got it written down here somewhere, but just remember what he said right there about choosing whatever to go for. Some people want to choose something different.
Yeah.
But that I agree with you. That's
what was your feeling on the...
$699 is a lot. £699 is
quite a lot
even
more.
more. It's nearly $1,000.
Yeah.
When you include the disc drive and everything, which, by the way, it doesn't come with the disc drive for that price.
It doesn't even come with the stand.
It doesn't come with the stand. We got all of these things with the base PS5.
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
Crazy. It doesn't come with that stuff. That price is extremely high. Now, well, in fact, let me continue a bit more on that.
Yeah.
I don't know how Sony were thinking we can do this. I understand. I'm going to talk about how the justifications for that price and stuff like that afterwards. That's all cool. That's that aside. But Sony should have still been like, we can't go to people with a £700, nearly $1,000 console, a luxury item in today's day and age, in the year of 2024, where people are struggling to make payments on basic stuff.
Yeah.
We can't do that. I'm surprised no one said that. That's the bit that I'm shocked about.
Yeah.
And it's very expensive. A lot of people can't afford this. A lot of people won't want it. Some people are going to do it no matter what, because if you really want something, you can budget, you can get things, and you can make it work.
Performance-wise, it does look very cool.
Exactly.
And not £700 of cool, but cool.
Everyone's got their own personal barometer on value and stuff like that. However, the price is kind of accurate.
Yeah.
If you look at GPUs and stuff like that,
it's not extortionate. They're not ripping you off.
They're stupid prices, these GPUs. And that was the big thing that changed it. They made a new GPU that was 45% faster than the previous one, 65% bigger, which equaled 45. And if you look at the most comparable, because there's no graphics card that has RDNA 4 technology.
I don't know.
I hear it's big.
Yeah,
Digital Foundry told me it's big, so I'm just going to say that.
Cool.
No card has that technology, so this is an entirely unique thing. There's nothing really to compare it to, but if you were to try to get close to it, the price lines up about right for what an upgrade would be for a GPU. And then you have to think about also there's a 2 terabyte SSD in there versus the 1 terabyte that we got, or the 800 megabytes one.
It's not extortionate. They're not like ripping you off to make a cash grab.
Right. And if you do the adjust to inflation things and stuff like that, it all works out. This is cheaper than previous consoles and whatnot. So it's just the fact that we have still a great PlayStation 5.
Yeah. The PlayStation 5 is not maxed out.
Right.
Not even close.
That you could get for, what was it, $499, I think it was. That's for the digital edition, but $550 for the thing. One when it came out brand new. You could probably get them from a little bit cheaper now because they've gone down a little bit in price. Which is still fantastic.
Yeah.
And then for hundreds of pounds more.
Yeah.
It just feels like a bit of a sting, and it just feels so...
I think it is important to say, like, it isn't a cash grab. They're not like taking the piss. Like, it's new tech, higher performing graphics, etc., etc. It's fairly the pricing is fair on it.
Yeah.
It's just more than we're expecting. And given that, do you know what it feels a lot like? It feels like the last generation where they brought the PS5 out and Xbox just brought out the next one.
Yeah.
This just feels like the next one when we're not ready for the next one. It's the next one too early.
Yeah. I think they're going off of the PlayStation 4 and then the PlayStation 4 Pro they made.
Yeah.
But the PlayStation 4
was feeling it.
It was feeling it from pretty much the first year. It was like, ooh, these fans are kicking on. That's pretty hardcore. And then we got the Pro and it relieved a lot of the stress.
The big reason the PS4 Pro was needed was the PS3 having its proprietary coding base held a lot of stuff back. As soon as we're in a relatively normal code area, language, whatever you call it, like developers were able to run instead of walk, and they immediately snapped up the gap.
Yeah.
And within 1 or 2 years, like say, they were finding every little extra piece they could. So we needed the PS4 Pro. PS5 has not been touched. And I think it's mainly because they've made so many significant advancements. Like that memory, the SSD does so much of what used to be the GPU's job, because the GPU is spinning everything up. And now it's like
it's cramming it all in there.
It reminds me of the first time I saw a double clutch thing on Top Gear, where Clarkson's like, it's just got the gear ready and it slots it in.
Yeah.
That's what the SSD is doing.
Yeah.
So because of that, my PS5 is not struggling. I just don't need it.
And that's a big thing, because a lot of people are going to feel like their PS5 is doing great.
Yeah.
So looking at this is going to look like it's been... So there's a couple of problems with this whole presentation. Let me talk and break down a little bit of the presentation first of all, and then we'll go into that. So Mark Cerny gets on. It's a 9-minute presentation, which is a lot shorter than Mark Cerny's traditional deep dives.
Yeah, it's because it's not a deep dive.
Exactly, it wasn't a deep dive. It was barely a dive. That's what it was. It was a splashing around. It was a splashing around in the paddling pool. That's what it was, and it felt very different. There was not a lot of technical talk in here. There was numbers, but those kind of numbers you get from like an Apple presentation, which is directed towards the general consumer who doesn't know anything about tech.
Everybody else can understand 45% better. Like that's a lot of percent better.
That's a lot percent better. We like it. We like it. That's about as far as it went. But he didn't do his usual calculations of compute units and nodes and stuff like, which is all fantastic and stuff, which is what we wanted from him. Instead, it spoke about 3 main topics. He said...
That's 4.
3 main topics. 3 main topics right here. So he said that 3 things are going to be improved. One of them is that the GPU is significantly larger. Yeah. Meaning that there's just more raw power in the machine. Ray tracing abilities have been added to each one of the compute units in the processor and stuff like that, which means that it has even more advanced ray tracing capabilities, which some of the stuff isn't available in today's GPUs, which is like really cool and whatnot. And then the final one, which is potentially going to be something really good, although we didn't see anything of it, PSSR, or as the guys at Digital Foundry call it, PISA, because it's very... all I think about actually is USSR. That's what I think about when I see it. PlayStation Super Sampling Resolution. Something like that. Essentially what that does is, if you ever had a PC or if you ever heard of DLSS on the PC, it's where it takes games that are lower resolution and uses AI machine learning to boost that resolution up to like 4K and stuff like that. It's been tremendously successful on PC, where you're sitting like 2 feet away from a screen and everything looks great. Imagine what that's going to do for you when you're like 6 feet, 7 feet away looking at your TV. It's going to look fantastic. Hopefully that's going to be fantastic. However, the way in which they showed everything was entirely wrong. They were like, so the whole crux of it was people, like you said, choose performance mode over fidelity mode in most of their games. And they have the telemetry in the back. Oh, this is what people are choosing. And they were like, what if we make a console where people don't have to choose? We give them enough raw power that they can do 60 FPS and maintain this visual quality of fidelity mode. And they were like, look, with Ratchet and Clank, you don't have to... If you put it into performance mode, it sacrifices like details in the distance and everything's a bit blurry. But with PS5 Pro, it all looks just like it was on fidelity mode with the ray tracing. It's like, oh, it's great. Last of Us, similar thing.
As a chooser, those are exactly the sorts of things I don't care about.
That's the thing.
I want 120 FPS on my Ratchet and Clank, not ray tracing. Ray tracing's great, but I don't care.
The problem that I thought to myself is that, are developers even going to do what they're saying?
No.
Because it's entirely up to them, right? They're given raw power and they can do what they want with it. What's to stop them from just going, all right, we're just going to make the fidelity mode look even better and still be 30 FPS, and then there's still a 60 FPS option on the side?
Or they'll go, well, we can make this really performant and sacrifice how it looks.
Everything. It's just a pixel.
So it's a weird one.
I was like, it's a bit strange, because how are you going to force them to do that? How are you going to force them in? They'll do it for Sony titles and whatnot. But here's another thing that made the whole presentation weird. One, I think they should have at least shown off a brand new game.
That was one of my things I was going to address.
They didn't show anything new. They just showed like previous titles.
And old titles. Like Ratchet & Clank's a launch title, which is a great game,
Yeah.
but it's a launch title.
And they showed The Last of Us, which was Last of Us 2, which was on the PS4, brought over to the PS5.
Yeah.
That was another one. They also showed Hogwarts Legacy, which was a strange one because that was the only one that wasn't first party
Yeah.
for some reason. But anyway, they didn't show anything new, which is something that obviously people want to see for a new
Yeah.
machine. They want to know what they can play on it that's like really awesome. And they should have had that to hand. Maybe they're going to do that in a PlayStation State of Play later on or something like that, but it should have been here. However, also they didn't show games that drastically changed. Unfortunately for PlayStation games look very good.
They do. It's very hard to see a difference.
So they showed this thing. The way they did it as well, they were like, okay, side by side running, and then they did this wipe thing, and the thing got smaller, and then they zoomed in on this smaller space, and you're like, you're like,
Exactly. That's exactly why I don't care about it. Because I never noticed it. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's also funny because, like you say, we're trying to push a brand new console here, right? And I've heard a lot of people say, well, what is there to play on the PS5? And the thing is, like, there's a lot you can play on a PS5, but there's not a lot you can only play on a PS5. And there's...
especially now with the PC initiative and whatnot going more over there.
Right,
there is a bit
exactly.
of a delay still, but it's not the end of the
there's
world.
absolutely a delay, but equally, like, it feels like we haven't had an exclusive title in a while. And I'm not saying that, like, Astrobot, sure, but not saying it's going to push a console. Astrobot's not pushing a PS5 Pro.
I was
799 or whatever.
I was going to get to that at some point as well, because I was thinking about it when I said the thought of they should have shown off a new game, and I was like, well, what could they have shown off?
Ghost of Tsushima 2 would have been a banger there.
Would have been a banger, but we don't even have that confirmed yet. We know it.
Horizon 3.
We know Horizon as well. I mean, we know it ended on a cliffhanger. We think it's going to be a trilogy.
We know Guerrilla's working on it.
Yeah, but we don't know anything. Like, there's no dates coming up. They haven't even had a trailer for something coming up yet.
Yeah,
That's the uncertainty part, and that's the and launching a console with all of this uncertainty is just wrong.
and
just
also
bad.
Also, and forget the pricing because, like you said, as much although it's a lot, it's also fair.
Yeah.
Doing just that in today's market where everybody is currently struggling,
Yeah.
That's not going to be 100 million sale unit, right? Because everybody's struggling, and even though it's fairly priced, like, I think people would they'd spend more time saving up for it if there was stuff they had to play on it. But you don't have to play any of the titles they showed on a PS5.
On a PS5 Pro.
PS5 Pro, yeah. Like Ghost of Tsushima, oh look, it looks extra beautiful. I only care about the FPS, and it's going to be 60 on both. What?
If, for some stupid reason, that GTA 6 was 30 FPS on PS5, and then PS5 Pro 60 FPS, that would have been the mic drop. That would have been like, shit, people... We want to get this thing. Maybe we want to get this thing.
Yeah, future-proof, because that's a 10, 15 year long game based on the last one.
That might be the big thing to sell people.
Yeah.
However, I'm pretty sure it's going to be 60 FPS on PS5 as well. But just like saying hypotheticals here.
Yeah.
That would have been something to go, oh shit. But right now, they were just like, well, the games that you play right now? You could play a little bit better.
Yeah, you could play it. It would look a little bit better. You see this thing you've never noticed in your life? See, Leaf A17 subsection B5. That leaf, 3 extra veins.
3 extra veins on the leaf.
You can't see it unless you have a 15 grand TV. But it is there.
It's there.
Like, I don't care.
And again, they showed PlayStation titles, which again look fantastic in whichever mode you put it in. Just it will look a tiny bit better in the other mode.
And to be fair, they do look better. Really, what's frustrating is this is a big upgrade for the fidelity guys, which the reason I say it's frustrating is it turns out 75% of players want performance. So they specifically targeted the smaller user base for a thing that that user base doesn't really care about because they prefer how it looks. They also tend to buy their games based on how it looks, not how it like performs. So it's a bizarre one.
It is very strange when you put it like that as well. People who are interested in the looks, they're interested in the looks. They don't care about the performance. People who are in performance, they don't care about the looks. So why would they care about the looks?
exactly. I don't understand why they chose to do it that way.
It was the messaging that was entirely wrong. Like if they had showed a brand new game and saying, "Look at how fantastic it could look," it would have been deceitful marketing. But if they didn't even show the PlayStation 5 version, and they just went on the PlayStation 4 Pro, we have ray tracing, we have global illumination, we have these shadows, we have this fantastic thing, and we can load all these worlds because of the fantastic SSD, the 3D audio, and that is going to be on PlayStation 4 Pro, PlayStation 5 Pro this November.
Yeah. Previously,
fantastic.
You had to choose 60 FPS or fidelity.
Right.
PS5 Pro, you get them both. It'll run 4K, native 60 FPS.
Exactly.
With ray tracing.
Exactly.
Look at Horizon. Look at our brand new trailer for Horizon 3 Dawn.
Exactly. We are marketing geniuses. We should have been there. This is what you should have done, Sony.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you there are people listening right now who were on the fence or who are like, nah, it's too expensive for me. You'd be like,
that messaging.
I mean, I don't have the money for it still, but that sounded good. Maybe I could save up.
I can save up a bit now. I can sell my PlayStation 5 to bridge the gap. Got a few months to get.
I bet you there are people out there that are doing that now.
Yeah, well, there would be, yeah.
But because you fucking need to say it right. You need to do it right.
You need to show something. You need to show something.
Exactly.
You can't be like, play all the games you've been loving so far and have already finished 5 times. Again.
It's also, they've got us to play the same games multiple times anyway. How many times have we played The Last of Us Part 1 and how many times have we played The Last of Us Part 2? Replaying all of us.
The Last of Us Part 1 came out in 2013. You can't be showing us The Last of Us. Or like they talked about The Last of Us 3, right? Yeah. Show a teaser for that.
Yeah.
This is a perfect excuse. Hey, brand new console. By the way, look at the things you can only play on it. Last of Us Part 3, Horizon 3, Ghost of Tsushima 2. Just like even teasers, 15 seconds saying before you had to choose performance or fidelity. Now you can run ray tracing, 60 FPS. You don't need to choose. We just do it all.
Yeah.
Boom. Suddenly I'm thinking, it's a little expensive, but it's fairly priced. If I start saving now, I'll be able to get one,
Or even if you wanted to.
But that's not even a conversation for me. I'm just like, well, I don't need it.
Yeah. Or even if you wanted to cover all the markets and all the types of people who could possibly want it, who could possibly want a faster machine, you could go the Call of Duty route or something like that. Go, yo, you would like to play Call of Duty in a high frame rate? Well, there's a 120 FPS option.
Right.
It looks dog shit right now because it's really hard to get those numbers. But with this, it actually looks like the 60 FPS option. This is what it looks like running all over the place. But you won't be able to see the difference over YouTube. But it's amazing and whatnot. And then get someone who plays esports and be like, it's fantastic. It's great. Blah, blah. So many options for you to do instead of just get Mark Cerny, do something he doesn't do, which is just act like a public figure,
a corporate mouthpiece.
Face. Exactly. Do that, and then there you go. That's the PS5
That was
Pro.
also really disappointing because I'm like, Mark Cerny, I expect you to be nerding out about audio.
Yeah.
I expect you to be trying to convince me to send you a 3D scan of my ear, you fucking perv. That's what I want from Mark Cerny.
It's like Quentin Tarantino with the feet thing.
I want Mark
we
Cerny
just
to be
accept
like,
it.
look, you just need to send me a mold of your feet. You got to trust me or make your gaming better. And I'll be like, I don't trust that, but I do. Fine.
You're going to make me a great console. Okay, all right, we'll do it. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm telling you, this is the exact conversation people have with Quentin Tarantino. They're like, so you're going to put me in a movie that's going to make me insanely famous, but I have to show my feet. And you have to do really close-ups. You have to lick it. All right, I'll do it.
Even better, like if you're just on Quentin Tarantino, I love how he put himself in, what is that movie?
With what's her name? Salma Hayek. I don't know the movie, but I know that.
I do know the movie. They made it into a show as well, and I totally forgot what it's called. But it's really good.
So, Salma, I am going to be the one that sucks sometimes.
You're gonna in peak Salma Hayek is gonna do a sexy dance, and then you're gonna stick your feet in my mouth and then pour tequila. No, real tequila.
Yeah. And I'm only in it for this scene. Don't worry about it.
But fuck, Quentin Tarantino, so funny. But that's what I expect from Mark. Yeah. And if he'd have really gone on one, like what they should have done is he should have had like 2 minutes in to be like, by the way, it does this, and then they should have tried to drag him. I was like, no, I got to tell him about that.
I've got to tell him
about like the improvements we made with the ray tracing in fidelity mode.
The cache has 15 more megabytes. Give it back.
Yeah. Words we've never heard. Do you remember like when teraflops was a big thing?
Yeah.
Like, I want to hear about like.
Dude, he's such a pivotal character in the tech space that we were talking about teraflops for ages, for eons it felt like, in the console space. And then when the PS5 came out, he was like, so we can't actually use teraflops as an accurate measure for these new console, for this new console. And everyone was like, cool, done. Yeah. Say no more. It's Mark Cerny. We don't question the god.
Right.
He's the emperor of man. We don't question him.
Yeah.
And we just stopped. No one uses it anymore. No one says that.
No. But like that's what I want from Mark Cerny. I want to hear it. He's our Doc Brown, you know. Yeah. It's 1.1. What was it? 1. What was it?
Gigawatts.
He says it wrong as well because he read it wrong. He's never heard the word. That's why he calls it gigawatts.
Gigawatts.
So like that's what I want to hear. Unknown words from Mark Cerny talking about the flux capacitor in my PS5 Pro. And then having to be like, Dragon was like, no, I gotta tell him about the foot scans. It's so important. Summer, how can you tell me? Like, that's what we needed, you know?
Yeah.
And see it running, or just see some stuff that you only really want to play on a PS5 Pro. Horizon 3, Ghost of Tsushima 2, Last of Us 3, something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, at least if it's not out, you can look forward to it.
Yeah.
On PS5 Pro. Instead, we got some hardware, which is like the way the PC, like Nvidia does it. Here's another graphics card. You know what you can do with it.
You know, guys, you know. It just felt, it was a bad messaging. Bad messaging. And especially when it comes off of the next topic we'll talk about later, the failings of Concord, which lasted for all of 11 days.
I have another one about Concord, by the way. Do you know that there was supposed to be an infamous remake or crossover, and it was dropped in favor of Concord?
Oh, lovely. Isn't that great?
Yeah, so that's why that wasn't developed. So that's why there's no Infamous 3. Ha 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 ha.
Thank you, gods. Thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
Great. So you know,
good shit.
A lot of misses coming out of Sony's corner at the minute.
Yeah, they stepped on a rake right there twice now. As I said, the messaging was the worst part about this. It is expensive, but that's no fault of Sony's. I think that's just technology, unfortunately, and cost goes up.
But fairly priced.
Exactly, like my work, everything's expensive, materials wise and whatnot. I'm sure you go to the grocery store and everything's expensive there. It is life, unfortunately. It's hard. Also, but it is on Sony to make a conscious decision on what they put out there.
Yeah.
If they should have gauged this at the beginning, what sort of price area are we landing at? We're looking at £700. Bro, people don't have money. People don't we're gonna sell a couple of these, but we're not gonna sell a bunch of these. Maybe we just don't. Maybe we just wait for the PS6. Maybe we just do that. But anyway, I am, however, interested if they show me something unique. If they show me something, like I said, Horizon, if they show a GTA, if there's something that they go, it can do this versus the PlayStation 5. This is one reason why you should buy it. Because I'm a tech guy. I like my new tech. I like to have cool things. If push comes to shove, if something cool comes out, I'll save the money and I'll go and get it.
Yeah.
I don't want to give up £700, but if I see something cool, it will take over me and it will do it.
I'm willing to pay for high quality if it provides me enough value. We're both sitting here with MacBook Pros or whatever. I think I got stuff. Yeah, like exactly. Like I'm willing to do that if it does something that I need better than something else. So
show us.
Yeah, show me. And do I want to spend 700 quid on a PS5 Pro? No, but if you showed me those 3 games and presented the messaging correctly and had Mark Cerny not feel like an HR person about to sack me, I might have been interested. I might have started saving an extra 100 quid a month for the next 3 to 5 months, and then suddenly it's not so bad.
Yeah. it would have been so great to have him show off Horizon, show off some ray tracing capabilities, show how, because that game looks gorgeous anyway, but then there must be something more they can just add to it that goes, oh, you thought it was thing because we were kind of tricking you, and if you look here, the lighting isn't accurate and whatnot, but we're tricking you. And then they show these gorgeous rays just bouncing off of the ocean, off of your, what was the sun wing and whatnot, when you're flying it and whatnot, and you can be like, oh, I need this. I need this in my eyeballs. I need it. And it's going to look even better on my OLED and whatnot. It's going to look, that's the thing they needed to do. That was the biggest thing.
And they also should have done something, not on that, but they should have had whoever they pay to do reviews and stuff to talk about, like we did, the tech price. Because like, a graphics card is more than that. But with the PS5 Pro, you're actually getting significantly more. You're getting very significant performance. Yeah. A lot of very interesting tech, and it is in itself a standalone console. Yeah, where you can easily spend. I think a 3090 Ti is still like £1,400.
I don't know, unfortunately. I mean, let's do a quick because I think they
have a look.
I remember there was a time where it was stupidly high, but that was like the Bitcoin era.
Just Google it. 3090 Ti. So that's the last generation, the top card from the last generation.
3090 Ti.
It might be the 4090 I was thinking of.
You might be thinking 4090 because
what's the 3090?
3090. I can see. Oh, is this a reference? Is that the one? £780 on eBay. Let me find an official source. Yeah. Let me not find eBay because they could be inflated prices.
Fair dues. But again, my real point is for a similar price to a graphics card.
It's coming up with the later ones like 40 series. So a 4090 is like £1,800. A 4070 is £829.
Yeah, that's the base card of the current generation.
Yeah, 4070 is the one that's like the middle tier, isn't it? There's a 60, there's a 4060, and there's a 4090.
I thought it was a 70, 80, and 90. I don't know, but anyway, it's like middle to low tier.
There is a 60, 70, 80, and 90.
Okay,
so
cool.
A 70 is £580. So a lot of the console already.
Yeah, but it only does the one thing.
Exactly.
It is just a graphics card.
Yeah. So the
versus
CPU and everything.
Right. Versus a full console with exclusive and third-party titles, blah, blah. Everything's done for you. Turn it on, it does everything for you, right? My point is that is the messaging that needed to be had, and you couldn't do it there because you can't justify pricing in your own pitch.
Yeah.
But you do tell people, look, give them a comparison for other comparable things.
Yeah.
Like, because it is well priced, but the conversation needs to be had. Is it expensive? Yes, for a console based on what we're used to, but is it expensive in tech in general? No, it's actually quite fair.
Yeah.
It's clearly not a cash grab.
Yeah.
However, this comes off the back of multiple Sony flops. They haven't shown us anything new. They haven't shown us any reason that we need it. They haven't given us anything good. They had Concord flop. They had the Helldivers 2 issue. Like, there's multiple reasons why people are not happy with Sony right now.
Agreed.
And then you come out with an expensive bit of tech on its own, fine, but with no good reason to get it.
You barely explain what you're... Well, it will do what you play already well.
It will do that thing you choose not to do. What?
You know how you don't care about looks? Well, we're going to make it look better.
Yeah. You know all those things you don't care about? Like how you can see the people in the crowd smiling. You know how you don't care about that? You're not going to have a choice. You're going to be able to see that guy's pearly whites all the way back at the back of the pod race. You know? Like, all I'm saying is, I watched Phantom Menace relatively recently in May because it was, Star Wars Day and my anniversary. Yeah. Those are Q-tips that are dyed.
Yeah.
Do you know that in the pod racing? I don't care. It still looks like that's me. I care about Anakin. It's working. I care about that. I want to see the pod racer. I want to see Zabulba, have his engine come flying off. That's what I want to see in high frame rate and looking good. Doesn't need to look amazing. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
So why are you forcing me to look at stuff I don't care about?
Yeah.
Zabulba takes the lead. Sorry, I love that.
I was just about to. Which we all clearly know is the translation for in what was it? Tatooineese? Tatooese? Whatever
this guy knows the language, doesn't know what it's called.
Let me read out a few comments that I asked for on Twitter for the people who are,
Yeah.
who are around. Runic Firebird, our boy, said £200/$ more for barely and upscaling in resolution, and no noticeable change in FPS between the two. No, he's not put a full stop here. No disk drive and the stand is sold separately. It's almost double the price at that point for almost no change. There is a change in FPS. Obviously,
But isn't it interesting? He did the exact same thing as me, which I want to choose higher frame rate.
Yeah.
And instead, me and him still only have 60 FPS.
I see actually what he means is that if you're already on 60 FPS, there is no change in FPS.
Exactly.
You're
You just
gonna
made
get
it look better at things I'm not looking at.
Yeah.
So that,
Fair.
and I agree
Fair.
with him. That's exactly how I look at it.
Fair.
If they'd have turned it up to 90 or 120, okay, cool. Great,
Again.
good, cool.
Proof that your messaging was just awful, Sony. Proof.
And ironically, they said, we looked at the numbers, we see most of you opt for performance. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
This is
we
the
have
opposite.
performance at home.
This is the opposite of like, you know, when Xbox was like, people are buying the Xbox Series S,
Yeah.
for example, and not buying the X. And they were like, well, clearly the reason is because it doesn't have a disc drive. It's like, no.
Yeah.
That's not the reason why people aren't
No.
buying it. And then Sony were like, they're playing in FPS mode. Well, let's make it look better for them. It's like, well, that's not the reason why they're playing. They clearly don't care about it. That's why they're playing it in that thing. You fucking morons.
Yeah, like ask one person
Yeah.
why they do it.
By the way, you know how you said that they should get to like tech reviewers and whatnot to
Yeah.
get the message out? I don't know if they've gone to them specifically, but I have gone to a few well-known tech YouTubers to watch some expert reviews and stuff like Digital Foundry and stuff like that. A lot of people are actually like, look, it is expensive. But actually, when you work it all out, when you message it correctly, it's not that bad and it's actually quite decent.
Yeah.
So maybe they're already doing that. Maybe this will.
They should
It was just a bad initial response. We'll see what happens.
To be fair, that's not something you can put in your own messaging because it makes it look like you're running damage control. You do tell people, hey, look, if you're going to be reviewing stuff, could you put it in perspective? Because, and to Sony's credit, which I'm more than happy to dog on them, it isn't a cash grab. They didn't take $500 worth of stuff or $400 worth of tech and charge you $800.
Yeah.
They took a very reasonable amount, a very reasonable performance, and put it at a very reasonable price point. So, fair enough.
What really upsets me, well, it's unfortunately nothing to do with Sony. It's all to do with like how our taxes work and imports and stuff like that.
It shouldn't be $1 for $1 to pounds.
I hate that it's fucking 900 with a disc drive, $920 essentially for the PlayStation 5 Pro. Whereas in America, you're getting, if we convert the £700 into dollars, completely different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's insane.
Anyway, Gerardo, he wrote, expensive, no backwards compatibility for older systems, as in for like PS3 and stuff like
Couldn't
that.
care less, but okay.
Feels like a system waiting for a price drop. Some people probably will be waiting for a price drop.
So not to
I
like...
don't think it's a Sony move though.
Yeah, and not to specifically pick on this guy, but I do feel like anyone that says no backwards compatibility is specifically looking for reasons to shit on something. No one gives a shit. It's been proven time and time again.
It's never been done before.
5 people play old games, 5 of them, and there are things there in place for you to get the games. Like
I like that you want to be able to play old games. I want you to be able to play old games. However, it's never been a thing in any other console ever.
Ever.
And no reason for it to start now. I don't know why you thought the Pro would be starting now.
Right. And the only reason Xbox ever did it was specifically because they had no other thing to show you. They went, what was it, 700 days without a single release.
Yeah.
They had to push old games, and they specifically went to an online service. So it was really convenient to say, look at this back catalogue. But we know from their numbers, no one plays it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you play an old game here or there, but the average person, the average user base doesn't touch these old games. Nobody cares. Like that, I'm going to whitewash it. Anyone that says no backwards, nobody cares. You don't care. And the people that say they care aren't playing these games a huge amount. And the people that do play it on the OG consoles, like Harry.
Exactly.
So
the OG console setup.
Yeah. So, sorry, but that point we're not taking. And that's not to be a Sony pony. that was just not. It's not a good point. It doesn't fit. And like say, why would it suddenly happen halfway through a generation?
Yeah.
If the PS5 didn't do it, why would the PS5
Yeah.
Pro? That it doesn't make sense.
But I'll take the other point that you say it is expensive, because it is.
Yeah, it is a lot of money. That's fair.
V Whammy wrote in, he said, wondering what Sony are smoking and where I can get some. It'll make days at the office a lot more interesting with all the power they have supposedly packing into this thing. The choice of software to demonstrate was very poor. Agreed.
Yeah.
Differences were negligible. It really was very, very little, the differences. Again, because they were showing PlayStation titles that looked fantastic anyway.
Yeah.
And they were like, look at these extra 3 branches.
Do you know, ironically,
Let me just finish up this comment here. Would have absolutely jumped on it if the new power boost brought with it at least some promise of backwards compatibility with PS3 titles. It's also easier to sell generally if they highlighted a key launch title, what we said.
Yeah.
The fabled Bloodborne remaster would justify it the most. Exactly. But yeah, go on.
ironically, this is the exact sort of time they should have had Mark Cerny bust out like a knack. You know, like look at all these particles. Like here's a tech demo. It's not a game that you can play, but here is the PS5 running this thing. Here's the PS5 Pro running this thing. Here's a graph showing you the difference in number of things in there, and it's like 15 times higher. Like, it's hard to demonstrate, so here's a graph. Like, it looks very similar. This is what this one's actually doing.
I would love it if Mark's in a Mark Cerny style, he pulls out like a graph that people just don't see.
Yeah.
It's just like here's a histogram of all the things.
That's exactly what it is.
You're like, what the fuck am I looking at?
Yeah. Or like, I think
all the nerds would be like, that's lovely, a bit of data there.
Knack was a great example of it, right? It was like all these different things moving around, and then instead you'd be like, so it looks the same. Here's the difference. If I press this button, Knack pops apart into his constituent grains of sand.
Yeah.
Like, that's the difference. This one has like 10 trillion things, and this one has 5 million things.
Yeah.
That's the difference of X. Boom. Oh, by the way, it's also running at 60 FPS, 4K, with fidelity mode on native.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wow, okay, fine. Instead, it's like, here's a more expensive one with nothing new to play. And again, I think it is, like you said, no title to push it. No real concept of what the difference. Yeah, you said something's 45% better, but it's not like my PS5 isn't doing the job.
Yeah.
That's no, man. And no frame rate increase. As far as we're concerned.
As far as the 60 FPS guys are concerned.
As far as the 75% of your users who want high frame rate are concerned, no upgrades. So, which I bet that's taking them by surprise. They're like, but you do fidelity. We're like, we don't care. Do you just mean that any of us? We don't care about it.
You guys are going to have the same 60 FPS.
And also,
the console.
a lot of us who opt for the high frame rate, we're on like older TVs. We're not spending 5K on these amazing TVs. So yeah, like 120 frame rate games wouldn't work. I mean, I'd have to move it. I have a monitor, but my TV is, I think it's like 1080p.
All right.
Like I don't care about fidelity mode. And even if I did, because I have a fancy monitor for the gaming rig, I don't care enough about fidelity to move my PlayStation over there to play it.
Just want that FPS.
I don't care about fidelity. It already looks brilliant, even in 1080p. Yes, it looks better on, amazing TVs, but it still looks breathtaking in 1080p.
I'm gonna have to win you, because I win everything now apparently.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to win you an OLED like 55-inch TV just to be like, here you go.
It would look. I don't doubt that it would look better.
I want to see your face, because it would be such a step up. It would be like, because it's not
right,
like,
but so let me.
what is it? It's like an LCD or an LED or something like that, and to go all the way OLED 4K LG, like fucking great thing.
But let me add one to that. Is if I'm getting that upgrade, I definitely don't need fidelity now because I just got a brand new pair of eyes. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's how my mind thinks. I'm like, oh, this huge visual upgrade. Fuck ray tracing. Like, give me an extra 60 FPS. Like, that's how we're wired. Do you see what I mean?
So what it is the market that Sony are trying to market
doesn't exist. Not at all.
They don't exist, and the people they thought they were going for are aren't really like people. They don't think like people.
No. I want it to move faster. And by the way, I think the human eye can see 48 frames per second. 120 is still better. Don't ask me why. It just is.
The human eye can only see 30 FPS anyway. We've proven that as console
Right.
players anyway. Junaid wrote in and he said PSSR, and he calls it, as Digital Foundry calls it, pisser.
Yeah.
Sounds interesting, but an evolving concept that only time and implementation can prove how useful it will be. Exactly.
Totally agreed.
It's unfortunate that
fair.
that's one of those things that just can't be shown yet. It just needs to do. We need to wait and see how it's implemented. I don't care for ray tracing due to it being so taxing on the system. As long as I get true 4K 60 FPS, I'm golden. Well, here we go. Hopefully that's the world we're coming to.
Interestingly, I used to be that way. For me, at least on a console,
Yeah.
I am not bothered about like taxing the console. You know, like it's like not having sex with your girlfriend to keep it tight for the next guy.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm
When I was playing,
use it.
when I was playing Ultramarines, I put that everything to max, and I was like, I saw the number. It says the temperature on the thing. And whatnot. It's like 80 degrees. I'm like, but it's supposed to run like that. It's not like I'm
80 is fairly high. Also, it did cause a couple of crashes.
2 crashes actually, both at the same spot. So I think it's actually a bug. I don't think it's.
I had 2 bugs, by the way, as well, where one caught the audio out of step. So where, I forget his name. What are the 2 Marines that come with you? Chiron?
Gadriel.
And Gadriel. Gadriel. I think, which one's the black guy? Chiron. He goes mental and starts beefing people out. Mine was like a second out of, so he was moving and then his lines were happening. So he goes, ah, and then runs off, and then I hear, yeah. No. I had that twice.
Okay. Alpha Aquila. No affiliation to the Aquila. Anyway, the PS5 Pro reveal in a nutshell. He wrote it himself over here. He goes, look around at all these cool things we did when we released the PlayStation 5. Here's a few minor improvements to fix a single issue. Pay us a stupid amount of money. Video ended immediately. That's a good wrap up of the video that we saw.
That's fair. They did forget one important piece there, which is marketed to the wrong audience as well. Like, well, you can watch it in 60 FPS or with ray tracing. I don't care about ray tracing. Like, I can't stress enough
How much don't care.
how much I don't care.
He also said this did more to sell me on the PlayStation 5 than it did the PlayStation 5 Pro. The disc drive quickly sold out, which, by the way, it did after the announcement of this console.
Scalpers, probably.
Yeah, I'm suspicious about that. I mean, it could be some people. Some people are going to be like, "Oh, preempting it," because that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't come with it, so you have to buy one separately if you want it. Also, Digital Foundry brought up a good point about that. So with the PlayStation 5, if you have the disc drive in there, you're going to be set for like Blu-ray watching, disc games and stuff like that. You're set. Everything's cool. No problem. If you buy a disc drive separately and you put it onto the thing, there has to be an authentication when it first connects to it with the Blu-ray servers to make sure that you're not trying to hack the device or anything like that, or try to connect something else in order to hack into the system and whatnot. If those servers go down, which eventually they will, you can't use physical media with your console anymore.
Fantastic.
And it's like, that's shitty, isn't
Fantastic.
it? That's shitty. So keep hold of the original PlayStation 5 that you got with the disc drive, because that might be the last actual true physical media reader that we get for a while. So.
That's the thing as well. Like, maybe it's incorrect, and maybe it's because the PS3 came out and that was the Blu-ray player, the best Blu-ray player on the market. But I use my PlayStations as my media center, like my home media center. Like, I use it to watch movies, Netflix, Amazon, game, everything. Stream YouTube, like that. That's what we're using it for.
Yeah.
I specifically want and need a disk drive. And I don't want that to go down if there's an outage. If there's an internet outage, as an example, I want to be able to watch Blu-rays.
Yeah.
That's why I have Blu-rays. And I like physical media.
Yeah.
I know that's a dated concept, but like steelbooks with nothing in it are boring. So I don't know.
Alpha does bring up a really interesting point here that we should talk about. He says, I'm worried that the Pro's success, if there is a success for it, will validate a super expensive and digital PlayStation 6, perhaps. And this had me thinking, there's multiple sides to this. It could very well give them the bravado to ask for 700, 800 pounds for the PS6 when it comes out. Yeah. Because they go, oh, look, you guys bought this one, so why wouldn't you buy that one? I don't believe it, because at the end of the day, I mean, they could be fooling themselves here. At the end of the day, console gaming is supposed to be more convenient and cheaper than buying a PC. And it still is, even in this price bracket, which is why it's dangerous. But
the thing
I don't think they've gone away. Go on, tell me.
We've already seen from the PS5 Pro material that they took some information and went the completely wrong direction with it. 75% of people care more about frame rate than fidelity. Let's give them fidelity. We don't care about it, right? So similarly, like, oh, people did buy it. It was super successful. Let's make a really expensive console. Like,
entirely possible. Entirely possible.
Just gonna say, I don't want it to be the case, but it is a reasonable concern. And again, with no real competition, this is exactly the fear.
Yeah, this is exactly the fear. And what's funny is that, like, we have the same fears like we have about Xbox, for example, how they're gonna get crappy with making video games, and they did get crappy with making video games, how they're going to lay off a bunch of people after buying Activision. Even today they announced a bunch more layoffs and whatnot. Again, this is the same fear that we had about PlayStation, that they were going to get lazy from lack of competition. And
yeah,
maybe this is the first indication. We won't know until we see the second indication.
It's also a weird kind of lazy.
It is something.
It's a weird kind of lazy, because where they got lazy was they never asked anyone the question. They took some data and went, well, let's make an improvement. It's an improvement nobody asked for. It's an improvement specifically the people you're improving it for do not want. Yeah. I want 120 FPS. At whatever I'm getting at 1080p, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Like that's specifically what I want. I don't mind having to choose, also because you phrased it that way.
Yeah.
You have to look at, so they got lazy. One survey, do you think out of the millions of people with PS5s, not 1%, a 0.1% wouldn't have been willing to fill it in and say, what do you prefer?
What's really shit about this situation is that companies can't really rely on the public to make decisions.
I do understand that.
Because if you ask make good decisions, because if you ask the Xbox community, what is it you really love about Xbox the most, and what would you like to see more of? They'll say Game Pass. They'll say make Game Pass cheaper, put even more games on there.
Yeah.
Bankrupt yourselves. And if you listen to that, you will die. And if you did the same with PlayStation, they might come up with something. They'll probably tell you more games, to be honest, because that's all we really want.
But the question is, why do you pick FPS over frame rate? What's the reason that you're going for that? No, they obviously never asked anyone.
Yeah, it's very clearly they didn't. They took their own telemetry and they just went with their own assumption of the data.
They got it completely wrong, and they ran an entire product in that direction.
Yeah,
it's not unreasonable to think Alpha's wrong about a PS6. So
for real.
Also, look, we do have to accept that if the PS6 makes any improvements over the PS5 Pro, it's going to be expensive. It's unlikely that prices are going to be coming down significantly. Certainly, let's say values won't be coming down, right?
Yeah.
So, these things are going to be expensive, but there'd better be something to play on it.
As I said, there's a rumor that there's going to be one at the end of September, sort of the third week of September, I should say. They just need to show some good games, and they'll get back into the good books of gamers. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Rhino the Bouncer wrote in and he said, I was hoping for more features like backwards compatibility. Price is high, yes, but I'm getting it for the games like Death Stranding 2. Again, if they had showed Death Stranding 2,
It's not
And
even a
if they
game I
showed
care
some
about.
sick looking fucking monsters, everything looked great. That would be it. Because unfortunately as well, Death Stranding 2 is a bit of a bad example because that looks really, really good at 30 FPS. Like it's got that amazing frame blending. I don't know what they do there, what Kojima does, but it looks amazing. So that's one thing. Because I want to experience it at the highest specs possible. That's another thing as well. A whole section where we're kind of forgetting. Some people just want the best thing ever. I mean, there's a ton of them on PC.
Yeah.
And there are people who just don't want the hassle of PC, which PC is a hassle.
Totally understand that.
Don't try and pretend it's not. Okay. So maybe there's those people as well. Rapskillian also wrote in and he said, as the last one, honestly, I love the idea of a pro console. I felt they did add more space for devs to improve their games. About the AI upscaling, not really a fan of that. I would rather you use the resources to improve the CPU or the GPU efficiency performance. So we don't need to use AI. Well, it's a different sort of, I know what you mean. Like people have this intrepidation for AI because the more we use it, the more it proliferates. I think it's inevitable, so tough situation. But it's used more to like generate the image rather than replace like developers or something like that. But a little bit of healthy skepticism on AI is always cool. Anyway, that's what everyone wrote in about that. My takeaway, I think it's a pretty good console. I don't think it's the best thing since sliced bread. I think you could totally live without this, no problem. PS5 is still fantastic. It's expensive. If you can come up with the money and you really want it, go ahead. If you don't want to, totally fine as well. I completely understand that. But goddamn it, PlayStation, get your shit together. Show us some bloody video games.
Yeah.
Make more video games. Enough with the live service nonsense, because clearly you can't do that shit. Go back to what you do best. The stuff that we supported you for, the stuff that we paid you for all this time. That's what we really want. Please hear our cries. Please.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty fair thing. I think one of the things they forgot is the reason that they sold so many consoles is not because they make good consoles, which they do. It's because it's the only place to play the best games.
Yeah.
They make the best games. That's why people bought the PlayStations, because it's the only place to play them.
Yeah.
Keep that as your focus. Make great games. If you're going to bring out a new console, it better do something new, like the PS5 compared to the PS4.
Yeah.
And, give me time to save for it, because obviously it won't be super cheap, but like I'm willing to pay for a good product if it is indeed a good product and the only place to play the best games. Where's Ghost of Tsushima 2? Where's Death Stranding 2? Where's God of War, whatever the next one's going to be, because we know that it's not the end, right? Where's...
We don't know.
We do.
Theories.
We 100% know. Where's...
Sony Santa Monica working on another game as well as God of War. Where's that?
Right.
The Last of Us is working on one. There's also apparently another IP being worked on Naughty Dog as well. Where's that?
Right.
Too many questions, and you didn't give us any answers. Instead, you gave us a really, really expensive console with not much justification right now.
No justification.
Yeah. Any poo. That's the end of that. Thank you so much for writing in, guys. And let's move on to our next topic.
Before that, though, we need to thank our Super Bro over
We
at patreon.com/Conbrosations.
Thank you to our Super Bros who support us over there by donating to our Patreon. Thanks so much. Sheps is crusty writing up. It's so fantastic. I wish we could moisturize it, but I'm not going to do it. He's not going to do it.
Why would I? We'd lose funding.
And his missus doesn't want to even look at it. So
Jesus Christ. How do you think I get all this time to game?
Exactly. She just doesn't be near it. Thank you so much for supporting us. And if
Appreciate
you want to go support us and get early access to this podcast and access to our post show for our Conbrosations podcast, you can head over to Patreon and check out some of those tiers. It really helps us out. Thank you so much. Okay. Our next topic. Concord both went live and shut down in the time that we had 2 podcasts.
Yeah.
Which is fucking phenomenal.
It's incredible.
I've never known anything to be that quick. Concord, for those of you guys that don't know, it was part of PlayStation's new initiative to do like live service games. It was a hero shooter with barely any discussion or anything distinct about it.
Yeah.
All on the run up to this, it was like, okay, so it's like Guardians of the Galaxy, but shooter, but I don't really see anything too special. Like none of the heroes look particularly interesting. They don't stick out to you. They don't have like cool lines or anything like that. All right, I guess we'll wait for the beta to come out. And the beta came out and barely anybody was playing that. And then the game came out and it would cost $40 to play, and it wasn't like a free to play or anything like that. It costs money. It was on PC and PlayStation. And barely anybody ever played it. It reached like a peak number of like 600 people on Steam, which is insane for a multiplayer game. Insane for a PlayStation first.
No one knew it was coming out.
No one knew, and no one cared.
No one would have cared, but they still didn't know.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm just curious, what's the concurrent like BG3?
Oh yeah, any game that you want to pull up will beat it.
There are currently 46,000 people as of 20 minutes ago.
A single player game.
Yeah.
A year and a half after the thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, it went live and it shut, and PlayStation announced that it would shut down its servers and shut it down all within the span of 11 days.
Yeah.
The game cost $200 million to make.
Good fuck them. They deserve to lose that money on something awful. Yeah. And ironically, I saw someone show Concord and its playable characters, whatever you call the people you can play, the classes or whatever, versus Overwatch back when it released. And they were like, look, sex sells. And this thing ain't very sexy.
Yeah.
Like at all. Everybody's boring and ugly.
This is the problem. People are like, oh, why are you looking like that? Well, we're human beings. Our lives revolve around sex, revolve around laughter, revolve around being able to talk about things with each other. If you just take all that stuff away, you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Right. Like, and that's the thing. Overwatch, you think like, okay, well, they had Winston. That's funny. They had Bastion. Bastion's pretty funny.
Pretty funny as well.
Right. And then you have like your Widowmakers and your Tracers. Like. Yeah. And the male characters, Soldier 76 or 67, whatever his name was, Lucio, like, they're all good. They're all interesting to look at, good to look at, engaging. They do interesting things. Oh, and by the way, we knew the game was coming out.
Yeah. I love how, especially when it comes to like the sexual thing and whatnot, it's like, how is it that you saw, like, say, the whole world go crazy about Diva? And how how much attention that drew to the game, and how many new players it brought in, and how much money it brought in, and go, no, sir, we will not do that. We will not do that. We don't want the attention.
Yeah, we
prefer to lose all of our money.
Or games like more recently, not in the same category, but Stellar Blade. The First Descendant, like those are very, very popular, much more popular than your game.
Yeah.
And they're all engaging to look at. And you know what? Yes, they're over-sexualized and blah, blah, blah. But your job is to give people what they want, which they obviously like to look at curvy shapes. And they'll play the game. You make a great game and you stick some curvy shapes on it, you have a winner. You're going to make money. Like, that is your job.
Even if you're not going to do that, even if you're not going to do the sexual route to make them like look hot and stuff like that,
or at least make them look interesting.
At least make them look interesting. I mean, fucking, what is it? The Black Myth Wukong.
Yeah,
you're playing as a fucking monkey, but it's because it's interesting,
yeah.
And the Chinese mythology and stuff like that. It's interesting. Do something like that, maybe.
Yeah, it doesn't like.
But you just did uninteresting, boring, and not good looking.
That's the thing. Like
you went for the trifecta.
There's a trifecta of things you need. You have to have at least two. But in this case, you could go for three, and you went for none of the above. Like its designs felt, and then you didn't market it, so it doesn't look engaging. And like you say with Black Myth Wukong, like it looks engaging. It has all these interesting costumes, interesting weapons, interesting movement, interesting universe. Like neurons are firing when I look at that game. Right? Yeah. There's none of that. There's no marketing.
Yeah.
There's no like. Why would I pick it up? What like with all the other things out there? Why would I pick that? And I didn't even know it was coming out. So yeah, you deserve to lose that money.
I'll say one thing. Apparently, the game wasn't too bad to play, like running wise, right? It's just it was so uninteresting. That's what it was, and it does make me a little bit annoyed. I'm like, so it wasn't actually like a bad game. They just didn't think about it making it interesting at all in any way. Yeah. Which is a little bit annoying.
I'm just looking up some gameplay footage now just to have a look and see if it actually is any good.
The PlayStation statement, by the way, didn't say that they're closing it down, shutting it, and cancelling and putting it away. However, they wouldn't say that out loud to people.
Of course, yeah.
But they did say they were like, to reevaluate its future.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean they're going to be like, okay, take the roster off of the wall and now make them look good, give them some interesting voice lines, memeable stuff, things that the internet takes and goes crazy with? Maybe. So maybe Concord will come back in some sort of fashion if the base, if I'm led to believe, is good.
I will say it looks slow.
Yeah? That was one thing I did say, did hear from people.
Yeah.
That it does look a little bit slow.
It does look slow. That's probably the main concern. There's actually a few interesting mechanics in here, but again, like the person this guy picked is boring, but we're looking at FPS. The enemies look boring as well. Like from a distance, they're just humanoid shapes with a red outline. Like that's not... Versus, like, again, in Overwatch, you got Mercy's flying in the sky and Lucio's jumping around the thing and Winston hooping over something with lightning shooting out of a gun. Like, it's engaging. This looks like a reskin of Counter-Strike, basically, which, actually, this map looks very similar to a Counter-Strike map. But anyway, like, it's a game that I feel like they didn't do their homework. Same with the what do people want with the PS5 Pro. They just never stop to really find out what do people like about these things. Ironically, we said like Xbox has or Microsoft has Sony's homework and they just need to copy it. They've done the breakdowns. What makes these games good? They didn't start a breakdown. Why do people play Counter-Strike? Why do people play Overwatch? What did they like? And Overwatch, by the way, is currently in a really bad state. So what was handled poorly about it? Why was it successful and has it become unsuccessful? Like, let's know these things. And then, with that in place, as a concept around which to build our game, let's make a game that's fun to play when we're just using like basic stick figures. If we're having fun in the office playing it and there's no art involved and the map's super basic, then we have a game that's worth building. And I think those are the first initial steps that they just obviously didn't take. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't see any developer going, this feels fine. I feel like anyone that was really playing this goes, this feels a bit slow. This feels sluggish. It feels clunky. And then if someone goes, well, that's what it's supposed to feel like, I'd say, yeah, but it feels bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good. Like, maybe we should address this. It doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel satisfying. Anyway, Sony stopped doing their homework, and it's proving out.
Yeah.
It's proving out with the PS5 Pro. It's proving out with Concord. Like, this is the worst timeline that we talked about. Xbox owns everything. There's nothing getting made, and the only people making everything are getting it all wrong because there's no competition. What are you going to play without? What are you going to play?
Yeah.
You got nothing else to play unless you're on PC and you're playing like, Baldur's Gate or maybe Space Marine. Hopefully Space Marine eats their lunch.
Yeah.
Because I think, ironically, Space Marine wouldn't have done so well if Helldivers was still what it was at its peak.
Could have been. Because they're close in like the fantasy and stuff like that.
Helldivers, and people were saying this at the time, it is basically you're playing as the Imperial Guard.
Yeah.
And while a power fantasy is fun for a bit, there's something about that gritty, like we're in it together, stiff upper lip, everybody's in the trenches together, versus if you're a Space Marine, like there's not very many Space Marines, they're very, very obviously not you, I really think if they hadn't messed that up, that could have eaten Space Marine's lunch, which I'm glad it didn't, because Space Marine's been fantastic. It's such a great time to play, but yeah.
Let me just have a look. What's the Helldivers 2 player count?
I'm sure it's doing fine.
Not as great as you think.
Well, yeah.
The 24-hour peak is 17,000.
What was it 6 months ago?
Its all-time peak was 500,000.
Oof.
6 months ago, it was at 300,000. So yeah, that event, wherever it was, just account link. They on Steam DB they can actually mark it with whatever words they want, and they marked May the 3rd account linking shenanigans, and then but it was already dropping down to what was the thing then 130,000 at that point. So but it's gotten really low. Like could have
because this is the thing. Space Marine is so far, and it's been out officially. It's been out for a week less. Is not as high as Helldivers.
Yeah.
Like all-time peak is 226,000. Right now it's got 70k and 24-hour peak 147,000, which is very good, but that's not the Helldivers peak, right? So I'm actually really glad Helldivers fucked up because I love 40k and more people know about it now, and hopefully that'll mean every Caval's stuff gets greenlit properly, but it will be true to the grim dark nature of the universe, you know?
Yeah.
No one's happy. Everybody fights everybody. Everybody wants you dead. You specifically, as well as your race. You know, like you. They want you dead. Like not in general humanity. You.
Just you.
You know, like there's something about that. So I'm glad.
Let's transition then into the games that we've been playing. Let's start talking about it.
Okay.
Because I've been dying to speak to you since I finished it last night.
Yeah, you've been.
We both rolled credits on the campaign for Space Marine 2.
Yes, we did.
And boy, oh boy, was that cool.
It was very good.
As a newcomer to it, to the whole franchise and everything like that, it was great. I actually watched a lore video on Titus, Lieutenant Titus,
because he's from the first game.
Yeah, from his his backstory and what happened. Thank God I did, because there are things in there that are like, for example, the Black Shield and stuff like that. They mention it in the game.
You would never know what that means.
Never know what that means. And now, oh my God, I know what that means. He stripped his rank and stuff like that. This is so cool. And
you can kind of infer, but yeah.
But also, they don't fully mention what he did in the first game, because obviously it's like a sequel. They expect you to know that and whatnot. And finding
also,
out what he did.
He dies.
Yeah.
As far as like the Ultramarines are concerned. So.
And that was all so cool. So I'm glad I read up on that. But yeah, tell me your thoughts. What you loved about it, what you didn't, things like that.
Yeah, it was really good. I'm glad they included a lot of things that I called early on. This is, I guess, will be spoiler free.
Yeah, go on.
We were playing a little bit, but turns out I wish they would improve the multiplayer for the story mode, because you got set back. It didn't catch your progress on my...
I'm just wondering if it didn't crash, if it had kept the progress. So what happened was we joined up for a little bit. We played for like an hour or two, and then my system crashed and it reset me back to where I was before we joined together. Yeah. And I don't know if it's because if that would have happened anyway, because I was joining on your session, or what would have happened there. But I had to replay it all again, and wasn't a big deal. I loved it. I was very enjoying myself.
It's great.
And we was in that great place with the Mechanicus, where it's like they had these grand buildings that were beautiful and everything like that.
Yeah, the game's incredible. I gotta say, in terms of efficiency, like the fact that there are literally hundreds, if not thousands at some points, of actual enemies, not like shaders, not like a CG background running, but like those enemies come in, and if you don't kill them from a distance, they come to you, and then you have to fight them like they are there. They're real enemies. Yeah. They're all being processed all at once. Like, it's genuinely incredibly impressive.
It was very, very good. And the thing that I find, so as a newcomer to this, and as a guy who's only seen every like lore video I watch, it's artwork that people have made themselves, but it's like a still image. There's not really any, it's not like a movie out or anything like that. Some like CG stuff that you can pull up. Or is there something I need to watch?
You've not seen the Astartes project.
I have not seen the Astartes project. Is it fan made?
Yeah.
Sounds like
it's incredible.
Okay. I'll be very interested in that. Because there's not like a movie or anything like that, or a TV series or anything, it's just like books or pictures or fan art and stuff like that. I've always seen this stuff and I'm like, oh, it's hard to like see the living world of it or something like that. But I got to see the world in Space Marines, and
Yes, you did.
Just puts into perspective, because they make it sound so grand. Everything's so huge. Everything's so, we was at the height of man at one point, and all this technology is still around. Everything they build is big, not like big because it needs to be big, but because we are the Imperium. We are with this great thing in the universe. So everything's huge. Everything's got high ceilings. These great buildings that are big just because they're massive. And it just set the scale of everything for me for the first time. I really loved it. And on top of that, everything is dripping with style. It's like gold and red and like gold and blue, and it's like
Gothic
it's just.
And also, no matter where you are, you start to feel like you get impressed by that. And then you look a little bit closer and you see all those dark, insidious, weird bits, even from the quote-unquote good guys, like the cherubs and the servitors.
You go into a place and it's like, okay, so how does this stuff run? Well, clearly they've put a human, they've like cut off his legs because you don't need to walk anymore. They'll stick him in the wall, hook him up to a bunch of machines, and he runs now the door.
Yeah. In fairness, he'll run the doors for the floor, but yeah.
Yeah. It's like...
But do you know why they do that? do you know why they do that history, like law-wise?
I probably have heard it. But
so yeah, effectively, there's no AI.
Yeah.
They're a super.
Oh yeah, because they
AI,
tried at one point. And it was like
we essentially did like that and a Terminator type scenario. So no AI. AI is banned. So if you need high level processing, it's supercomputers, psychers, or a mix of the two. You slap some of these things together because you're not allowed AI. If you need a task to be done that requires changing things, you take a prisoner who's been marked for death, you scoop most of his brain out except the bits that are needed, and then you stick him in, on tracks, and there you go, right? Like, which is the good solution, like, yeah, it's awful. It's a horrible. One of my favorite memes is it's like people fan groups finding out they're going to their favorite universe, like My Hero Academia. Yeah, you got like a Marvel universe. Yeah, 40K fans. Oh god.
Oh no. Oh god. No.
Yeah. Oh god.
There's no good outcome.
There are literally none.
People are like, oh, well, what if you're a space marine? Oh, so you're basically not human anymore. Like you may be in humanity, you may like think you're kind of human, but the human condition doesn't apply to you after what they do to you.
No. Yeah, it's not. You don't want to be a space marine. That's not the thing you
do
want.
nothing but fight wars. Because you're not, that's all you are. That's all you are. There's no like, I'll just chill out today and I'll enjoy some TV.
Yeah.
No.
It's not the way it's going to go. It's not the way it's going to go.
And also in the world, every 5 seconds you're being accused of heresy. Everything is, you're fucking heretic.
Yeah.
Did you put your gun down? You're fucking heretic.
That's the sort of thing a traitor might do.
Literally everything is... You're talking very. You've been corrupted by chaos, have you?
There's a small little scene which, if you don't stop, there are some guard as you're like moving out in a place that get lined up to be executed because they ran away. Like
I stopped for them actually. Yeah.
Like which is very like World War One, but that's what you should be thinking. Like it's you die for us or you die because of us. Yeah. Like those are your options. Like it's awful that it's not a good universe to be in, but it's a great universe to watch.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna watch from the safety of my my couch.
Yeah, you don't want to be teleported there. Even like, by the way, as like a Primarch, which is like one of the apex predators of the universe, you're still not having a fun time.
No.
So.
You just need to read up about the Horus Heresy and then be like, okay, well, this was a bad idea. Anyway, the game is fantastic.
Yeah.
The campaign isn't stupidly long.
No,
but to be fair, you've also got it's long enough. You've also got the online part, which is like there's operation missions, which I haven't tried just yet, but you play with friends or you play with other people online, and it's like missions of, I'm guessing, the same caliber of the current campaign.
Pretty much.
You're just playing those things.
And one interesting thing that they do is, so like throughout the game, you're communicating or Tides is communicating with other squads trying to achieve similar objectives. So throughout the game, like let's say you take the right path to go and send a message, and we need you guys to take the left path and go and like hold down this antenna. On the online gameplay, you're holding down the antenna. So it's the other half of the campaign, which are really
smart.
It's really a smart and engaging way to do it. By the way, incredibly quote unquote easy to tie in and make the missions you're doing suddenly relevant. Because you're like, oh yeah, that's right. We needed these guys to go and like unlock the train door so we could deliver the thing to the place. But how did that happen? Well, now you have to go and recover the train and open the doors. Like it just.
I'm looking forward to the Hive thing. The
Hive Tyrant.
The Hive Tyrant that we're going to be looking forward to that. Another thing that I really enjoyed, that this is like a personal thing. I'm sure a lot of people other enjoy it as well, but this really made me into the world. So you know how I said I watched the Ungentlemanly Warfare?
Yeah, Ministry of
Ungentlemanly Warfare. And I enjoyed the way they speak because they're like,
he just found himself in a spot of bother.
You found yourself in a spot of bother there, chap.
Jolly good old boy.
Do you need a hand? He's like, could you please remove the battery from my nipples? Thank you. the calm nature, the way they speak while committing absolute atrocities is funny to me, and it's great. I enjoy
is that
it.
a heart?
And it's the quintessentially British way of speaking. And they kind of capture an essence of that in this. It's like the British Navy, the British Army type thing, the way they speak to each other, lieutenant instead of lieutenant, which I found out from you is the British way of doing it. Completely didn't know that because I only ever see American movies where they talk about lieutenant, and it sounded more badass. And the way they treat everything's royalty, everything's like my lord and stuff like that. It's just so fucking fantastic. That whole. Combine it with the beautiful aesthetic and the grandness of everything and how they treat each other, how they speak. It was just so perfect, right up my alley. I really, really enjoyed it.
In his name, brother.
His name, brother. The Emperor's light guides. And then, again, like, they really pound the heretic thing down all the time.
Oh, yeah.
The amount of times I would be traveling to my ship or going past, and I catch conversations of like, I don't know, what's his name? Is it Lord Chaplin?
The Chaplain.
The Chaplain.
Yeah, he's just called the Chaplain.
The Chaplain. He's like giving a speech to the Space Marines. And
the heretics will not take us.
Like, what path leads to heresy? Don't worry. This will shield you from the gaze of heresy. Well, really, they do pound it, and it's just so like in the world. It's so great. I really love it.
There's also a lot of things that I think you don't catch or it's easy to miss where like you get to a place and they're like, right, start the prayer of scanning. Yeah. Because it's a religious thing.
Everything's like religious as well. Like you go up to the machine, it's like pray to the machine. He lights like an incense and throws some like some flammable like I guess like gunpowder or something like that. It lights up and that's how it starts the machine. It's like there you go. That's how you do it.
I think there's apparently talk of like DLCs and stuff coming, and they're apparently going to be adding additional enemies, which could be cool. So, you know, no spoilers, but I know who I would pick. Have I told you who I would pick?
Tau.
Fuck.
Go on.
Tower actually not bad, by the way. One of the better 40k games is Fire Warrior, and you play as a Tau.
Heretic.
And then for one mission, you play as a Space Marine, which was really good because as a Space Marine, you're a walking tank versus a Tau who's super squishy. Yeah. So yeah, Fire Warrior is good. PS2, good game. Yeah, I think the OG enemies of like Necron and Orcs would fit really well here because, I mean, all enemies fight each other, but I just don't feel like Eldar would fit. As an
You've got something against the Eldar.
I do.
When I'm like, I'm reading up about the Eldar, you're like, why are you reading up about these incel fucks?
Pointy eared. Yeah.
All right. Also, so is there anything else you want to say about Warhammer 40k?
I love Warhammer 40k. I mean, I love it.
So I love it. Beautiful. Go play it. The other game that I played, I'll be brief on this is Astrobot. Yeah. Astrobot, the new game, came out for PlayStation 5, and my God, is it fantastic. It's just such a great game. It's fun. Yeah. It's very well made. There's lots of different sort of like, the levels feel fresh because you have all these different types of abilities. Yeah. So in one of them, you might get like it's going to sound weird when I explain it because it's so weird. You get crocodile hands. Okay. And what they do is they're really good at punching things, and they've got springs on your arms.
I would have thought that'd be good at anyway.
They do. There are grabbing parts in it. So like you punch things, and then afterwards you can grab stuff to pull yourself towards, and it's great mechanics. And then you have an option where you can strap a bulldog to your back. Again, strange to explain to someone. But then he's really good at like headbutting things, for example.
Okay.
There's one where you strap a chicken to your back and then you can fly upwards like as a rocket and
Chickens
whatnot.
to fly. Fine.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. These are all weird to explain,
Yeah.
but what I'm trying to say is that they have lots and lots of fresh mechanics for each of the levels and whatnot, and it makes everything seem so cool. There are some really, really infuriating levels, as any platformer would have.
Of course. It's part of the
Yeah, it's part of the
job
nature.
description, yeah.
But it's really what it is. It feels like the Super Mario of PlayStation.
Yeah.
And that is just great. It's a fucking great game. I really, really enjoyed it, despite the frustrating hard levels and whatnot. And it does the thing that Playroom did on the demo, where it plays homage to all of like PlayStation's history. You've got all of the console bits. You've got all of the characters in different like bot form and whatnot. And they do all these cool things. There's a God of War level. There's a Horizon level.
That's cool.
All these cool things. And it's just so fantastic. There's a Nathan Drake one as well. Just too good. If you haven't played the game, go play it. It's amazing. It's also a bit of a cheaper game. I think I got it for like £54, which is like not the $70.
It's still a lot, but
it's still a lot, but it's not the £70 where that games sometimes are. So interesting.
I've
man.
also been playing another game, which I won't talk too much about. We won't go too far into. But World of Warcraft. I got back into that. I resubscribed.
Hold on a minute. Hold on.
And do you know what's funny is your description was really apt, because it's been a lot of fun because of all the new areas and abilities that they give you.
You said you were just checking. You just installed it just to see.
I did, and then you only got to level 20, and then but I haven't bought the expansion, so I bought the subscription. Subscription takes you up to level 70. If I buy the expansion, I'll get up to level 80.
No.
The expansion's about the same price as Astrobot, though.
No.
So, yeah, I'm considering it.
You're already in. There's no considering anymore.
I'm like level 63. I rolled a brand new mage just to relearn the abilities. It's fun because of the new abilities that they give you. It's hard to explain to people. They've also made new adaptations to things, like flying is different now.
We lost him, bro. Last time it was like we were like, okay, there's cause for concern here, guys. Inform the High Commander that there's an issue.
Heresy!
And then before we even got to investigate or to see what's happening, you've already gone into the deep end.
Yeah. I'm close to the level cap of the subscription. I'm considering, once I've played a good amount of Space Marine and it's like I'm waiting for new content, I'll probably get the expansion for WoW. But really, the funny thing is there's raids and dungeons and all this stuff, and I'm really getting it just to do PvP. Don't ask why. Why do you get it? It's actually very quick to level these days. Very quick. And the game is incredibly efficient now. It's nothing like what it was when it started. And you could play anything you wanted. You could be anything you want. And there's no heresy in this. So you don't have to worry.
You don't have to worry about being a heretic.
last thing on the heresy stuff. I sent you the Astartes project. It's made by this one guy, Sima something. You won't know what's going on. It is just a fan-made thing with, the universe is big. Right? But one of the reasons I want you to see it is because the item artifact is either ancient Xenos or potentially Chaos ancient stuff.
Yeah.
Which is similar to the sort of thing that's going on in Eisenhorn.
Okay.
So you will be confused by the big bads. You'll have never seen it before. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Just watch and enjoy the visuals, and that he's telling you a story with almost no lines of dialogue.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's 10 minutes long. It's sick.
All right. That's all we have for this episode of the True Gamer Podcast. Thank you, everyone, for your time, your devotion to the Emperor. It will not be forgotten.
He protects.
He protects, except for the times he doesn't protect, obviously.
Well, then it was his will.
It was his will all along. That's the irony of it. It's just everyone's so devoted to the Emperor. Yeah, it's just like any god, really. It's like, but then what about all of these lapses? That was because he wanted it that way.
Do you know what? There's an ironic line near the end. One of the people was trying to they're trying to mess with your head, and they say like, when was the last time I worship the true God? When was the last time you felt your emperor's light?
Yeah.
The ironic thing about the emperor is you wouldn't feel his light for the majority of times because he's doing things. The reason that you don't feel anything is because he is actively holding stuff back,
yeah.
right? Which is this weird sort of like dichotomy, and it's also like what makes certain aspects of the world so insidious, because they take like a truth, which is, you know, your emperor isn't looking at you directly for the most part, generally true, and that means he doesn't care. Well, that is not the same.
Yeah,
you know?
it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
It is, because I've gone into the back of the lore and whatnot. It's all kind of ironic and whatnot, because he, for the whole time, was trying to force religion and that kind of following out of man, because it was like corrupting and caused all kind of issues and caused the Horus heresy and stuff like that all along. And now it's all back, and it's because he just simply can't talk.
Well, there's actually a bit more to it than that.
They also, the guys that he's apparently getting psychic whispers from apparently is allowing it, but I don't know. So
the emperor himself, there's a bit more to this, just a bit of 40k stuff before we go. One of the reasons a religion has kicked up around it is the chaos gods sort of forced him to be a god if he wasn't already one, because then gods work by given rules, where he wasn't subject specifically to those rules beforehand. So they made him a god, but for two reasons. One, they kind of believed he was one, so he kind of became one.
But when you see a giant guy in a golden armor with wings with amazing powers, no, it's just a guy. It's just a dude.
I'm just a guy. No need to worship. I don't really fancy water. How about some wine?
And I'm just going to save humanity. Don't worry about it.
Right. And I can't be killed and can read your mind. So yeah, like the chaos god sort of made him a god if he wasn't already one. Which, by the way, do you know, like, at least, I don't think it's been officially confirmed, but you know he's one of the chaos gods.
Yeah,
he's the chaos god of order.
I think it's because it's not been officially...
Yeah, it's not officially canon yet, but...
It's like theorizes like where he came from, but where does such power come from that's equal to the chaos gods? The chaos gods.
He's the chaos god of order. Yeah.
I didn't say it, and I don't know it yet. I think I need to do more research before I come to the same conclusion you have, but we'll see. Although, where else is the motherfucker going to come from?
Yeah, well, I mean...
There's another warp. It's a good warp.
That's where, like... Because, you know, he's a perpetual, you know, this stuff, right? So, like, people are, well, he could just die and come back. But, like, you don't know how long it would take for him to come back. Yeah. He's actively stopping things from happening. Like, you can't just take that risk. Does he come back? Do you know about Vulcan?
Sounds familiar, but I'm not sure if
one of the Primarchs. He's...
Because of Star Trek.
So, Vulcan is one of the Primarchs. He's a very powerful perpetual. Yeah. And he comes back as he is. But the Emperor, being the way the creation myth we know of him, he may come back as a child. That's possible, right? He may have to be born again. He may not come back as the Emperor, which means and he may not have his memories. You don't necessarily he may have to rediscover those, right? So there's all sorts of issues with him dying, coming back, and because he can't really be killed. But yeah, there's all sorts of interesting things. So technically, he is... It's not confirmed, but technically he is a chaos god, and the Primarchs are technically demon princes. Technically. So it's all very interesting.
That sounds like heresy to me.
It's like guides.
I think you're just, that's blasphemous right there against our god. He's not a god, don't say it.
Also, you know, the Omnisire, the machine god, that's him as well.
Oh, is it? Okay, because I was wondering. I was like, these guys, they're acting like it's the same thing, but is it someone else? Because clearly, like...
So, because he... Technomancy, if you will, is sort of tech psyker related activity, and he has all of that. So, like, he can interact with the machine spirit, or is the machine spirit, or whatever. But, yeah, this whole thing with Mars... Do you know Mars, the 30k stuff? Like, they sort of split. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's end the podcast. Yeah. Otherwise, we'll just keep going.
We'll do a Warhammer 40k encyclopedia. episode.
One episode will just be like, right, we're going to break down Warhammer 40k for you.
For the next 10 hours, we'll explain to you why.
It's like what is this for 40k nonsense? I'm glad you asked. Okay.
Settle in.
All right, here we go, boys.
Sarah, we're going to need some coffee.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys all in the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Why did you freeze? This seems like heresy.
Something's afoot.
Something.